Welcome to the NASCAR live chat with Hamm the Engine Man. If you don't know me, my name is David Hamm, 25-year NASCAR engine builder, recently retired. Was a 7-year jackman, also owner of Hammscapes Landscaping, equipment, repairs, all that kind of stuff. I pretty much get into anything. I'm on the radio here with the WAME 92.9 FM and 550 AM. Also, personality with the WAME Chillbillies. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram. And I also follow our NASCAR country page on Facebook. And you can find us on podcast, Hamm the Engine Man. Just do a Google search, Hamm the Engine Man. And it's anywhere that podcasts are available. And so, hey, Zach. Hey, Tom. Hey, Linda. Hey, Paul. Hey, Terry. And hey, Rachel. Thank y'all so much for joining in. My phone thought I said.
I didn't quite catch that. Could you please repeat it?
No, I'm not going to repeat it because I don't want to talk to you, Siri. But thank you for being nice. My phone said I thought I said, hey, Siri. All right, she didn't hear me that time. Good deal. All right, so today we're going to talk about the race, the championship race that was run at Homestead-Miami Speedway. And I know it didn't turn out quite the way that our what's up, River Rat? Quite the way that our Ford fans wanted to see. But I do know Beer Man was down there, and he had quite the time hanging out with Eminem's crowd. And he was in the right place at the right time, I would say, for that. But we're also going to talk about we're going to do some lap by lap, point standings, cold beer, warm beer, which is always an enjoyable time. And we're going to do a Hamm's Hanky sort of deal. And I got a little show and tell to go along with the Hamm's Hanky. So stick around for that. And then we're going to go over some NASCAR news, and then I'll throw out some Q&A if y'all have any questions or things that you want to talk about or ask me questions about. You know, some of my experiences. I did go to the racetrack for 7 years as a jackman, and I went full-time Cup Series most of that time and part-time Busch Series. You know, if we had an off weekend in the Cup Series, I would go jack for a Busch car or Winston West. And a lot of times if we had a cup race at the same track as a Busch race, then I would jack for Nemechek or Sterling Marlin at both of those tracks. So, all right, the finishing order of the race at Homestead-Miami Speedway was Kyle Busch finished first, as we know. Pretty much had to be to finish to win the championship. It seems the way it comes down, the way this playoff standing playoff system works now with NASCAR. It's almost like the person that wins Homestead wins the championship. So Kyle Busch won, and he won the championship. Martin Truex second, Eric Jones third, Kevin Harvick fourth, Joey Logano fifth, Clint Bowyer sixth, Ryan Newman, Austin Dillon, Alex Bowman, Denny Hamlin rounding out the top 10 right there. And that was four Toyotas, 4 Fords, and 2 Chevys in the top 10 in that race. So lap by lap. All right. Did anybody else did anybody enjoy that race? Because I don't know. It just seems like there wasn't a lot going on. You know, you look at the lap by lap and it was like, there really wasn't a lot going on. I'd say the most enjoyable parts for me in the race were whenever they had some issues with some of the Toyota drivers. But of course, it always seems like things they come back around, they get their lap back, or that kind of stuff. So I mean, maybe it's rigged. What do you think, Tom Robinson? Tom's right there saying it's rigged. And I want to say right quick, happy birthday to Paul Rodriguez. So hey, somebody explain to explain to April Webb how to do the chat, because she's not able to do the chat for some reason. Rachel says there was surprisingly only one caution. So imagine that. That's what I'm saying. Usually the exciting races are the ones that you end up having more wrecks, or you have beating and banging, and which causes cautions and, tires falling off or things like that. But I think the most exciting moments in this race were, Denny Hamlin getting too much tape on the front grille, causing him to come in and pit, overheating. What was the other? Truex had something to do. Let's see. On the pole was Denny Hamlin. He said lined up points due to rain which was another thing. So April, you got to sign in. All right. Kevin Harvick takes the lead and pulls away from the pack. Lap number 12, Kevin Harvick takes the lead, or leads by 1.5 seconds over the field. You know, he looked pretty strong right there at the very beginning. Lap 21, Martin Truex takes the lead, unfortunately, because it was kind of like take the lead and never look back. Truex has the lead by 6 seconds, 6.289 to be exact. Oh, yeah. Truex had his, thanks, Terry, that's what it was. Truex had his left front tire on the right front and the right front tire on the left front, which is bad business. I said that on purpose, bad business. So you put the wrong tires on, you know, left front tire is going to be a little bit softer. It's going to have less air pressure in it. You're going to have more grip. And you put that on the left front, the right front's going to want to wear faster. But you got to have that one harder. You got to have that one pumped up more. Because you think about the car going into the turn, you know, the weight's wanting to push down on the right front. So if you put that softer tire on the right front and it's less air, it's going to want to roll over. So that was not going to be good for him. And that tire was going to wear out. So by lap 80, Martin Truex won stage 1 winner. Lap 121, Kyle Busch was the leader. I'm sorry, Rachel. April Webb was her last name, so I can message her. It's Webb, W-E-B-B. So lap 122, Martin Truex learns his crew has his front tires reversed, as we just talked about, and I just explained. Wow, that's a bad deal. It doesn't work very good on a race car. Kevin Harvick takes the lead by lap 144. Kyle Busch passed Kevin Harvick at 157. Kyle Busch wins stage 2 at 160 lap. And Denny Hamlin takes the lead at 168. 45 to go. Denny's car is running hot. As I mentioned before, he had too much tape on the front grille. And it looked like whenever they showed the pit crew guy putting the tape on, he flat just stuck it, and it covered up the whole front. So basically, you know, you have to have air flow through the radiator, just like on a regular street car. You know, they're made. You got the big grill, what you call a grill in the front of the radiator, and that allows air to go through there. These cars have, you know, a lot of street cars nowadays have the electric fans, but back in the day, you had the street cars that had the fans that would freewheel whenever you first start a car and it's cold, a car or truck. And the old timers would take a piece of cardboard to check this fan. If your car had an overheating issue, you could take a piece of cardboard, stick down there in the fan, and if that stopped the fan from spinning, then you know your clutch was bad. There's actually a clutch, viscous clutch built into the fan on a street car back in the day. And whenever the engine would warm up, the thermostat would open up, warm air would be pulled through the radiator, that clutch would kind of like lock up, and then that would pull more air through the radiator. Anyway, not that it has anything to erase them, but I'm just explaining why you have to have air coming through there for sure. Terry asked me, all right, or Paul says Bubba had a flat and actually went to the pits rather than shredded all over the track for caution. Yeah. All right. And Terry says due to camber, right, David? Well, no. If you're talking about Truex's tire, the camber is a totally different thing. The camber is how you have the wheels set. Like if you're looking at the front of a car and the car's sitting like this, you see the wheels. They actually have a little bit of camber built into them like this. A street car has more camber. It could either be a little bit mostly positive. Trucks are built different. Trucks have different amount of camber in them because they're used to carrying weights and things like that. But a race car would actually have a little bit of camber, like a little bit of negative on the right and a little bit of positive on the left side, so that when it goes around the turn, the tires, you want them to be kind of like this. It's going to give it more pressure to the right side, because your right side's getting most of that weight. So your tire's going to be cambered out a little bit. But the way that we check those in NASCAR is you come in and they check the tire temperature on like 3 different spots on the tire. And if the tire's wearing more on the inner or the outer, it's going to be hotter. And then that's going to tell you if you got too much camber or not enough camber, too positive or too negative. And then you will, wear a tire out for sure with that issue. Tom says, where's Tracy? She is Yeah, I don't know where she's in a chair when I left the house because she is still not feeling well. I might have to take her to get checked. I'm going to take her to get checked for Lyme disease is what I'm thinking at this point, because this getting to that point of ridiculousness. She does not feel good. She got migraines for 3 months now. Paul says Rusty Wallace said to duplicate what happened in the 19 is like laying a red solo cup on its side and push it. It should spin to the left. If it flips it over, it will spin to the right. All right. That's a good evaluation on that. April says, is that why some radiators will have a piece of cardboard across half of the radiator? I saw that a lot living in the mountains in Virginia. Yes. If it's in cold climates, people will actually do that to the radiators to get the engine warmed up quicker. I would say it's not exactly a smart thing. And well, the other part of that is probably keeps ice and stuff from getting up in the radiator, which is going to melt. So, but it could overheat the car also. I mean, there's different ways to look at that. What's up, Augustine? Laura, I believe you're in California. Thanks for tuning in. So we got listener and watchers from California and Oklahoma and Charlotte and Indiana. So, and Florida. I believe Beerman's going to tune in. I know Paul's down in Florida, and Paul went to the race too. And Paul had a birthday the other day, so happy birthday once again to Paul. All right, so back to the lap 121. This is after stage 1 winner. Kyle Busch is the leader. Martin Truex, we just went over that. All right, so winner of stage 2 was Kyle Busch, and that was at like 160. Denny Hamlin takes the lead by 168. And 45 laps to go. Denny's car is running hot due to that tape that we were mentioning being across the front nose. And 45 to go. Denny's lap 225. Denny is back out there, but next to the last car, 1 lap down. So Kyle Busch takes the checkers and the championship. For the final point standings, there were Kyle Busch. I got the top 5. Kyle Busch, Martin Truex, Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano, and Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, Brad Keselowski, Clint Boyer, and Chase Elliott rounding out the top 10 in the points. So, you know, that really this point deal and all, it reminded me of last year. And if you look at the difference, last year the only difference was Hamlin didn't make the Final Four, and Logano did, and Logano went on to make the championship. It very easily could have been Logano in this top 4 again, and it very easily could have been Logano winning the championship. We would have had almost a duplicate finish in the points. All right, now Beerman's joined in, and Beerman was down there, and Beerman got he got my vote for the best pictures that I've seen so far in video. He sent me pictures and video that night from down in the check out Scott's pictures and video on his Facebook. That's Scott Trevison, a.k.a. the Beer Man. But, yeah, he sent me those. I think I got them about 11 o'clock that night. And a really cool video. He's standing down there at Eminem's car going by after he won a championship. So, picture with Kyle Petty, whom I have this shirt that Kyle gave me 2 years ago. And I'm going to be seeing Kyle again. He's going to be up here at Tilly Harley-Davidson in Statesville, North Carolina. They're going to have an event coming up here. The 23rd, I can't remember how many years they've been in business, but Kyle's going to be there, and Harry Gant's going to be there. Who else was going to? The King, I believe. Richard Petty's going to be there. Oh, Mike Helton. Mike Helton's going to be there too. So, like I said earlier, be sure to check out our NASCAR Country page on Facebook. Terry Quinn does a lot of stuff with that, and she posts some really cool stuff every morning, every evening. It's really engaging. Facebook page, and people really seem to enjoy it. Yeah, Rachel says, I wish it could have been a Penske win too. Yeah, Scott, I'm sure you had a great time. And April says, I wish it was Logano. Go Penske. That's right. I know Scott he called me one day from his boat down there, and that was very nice. I was like, man, I just need to come on down there. I just need to come on down and bring my harmonica. All right. Got me a little bit of blues in this harmonica. One of my buddies here in Statesville, Cleveland McPhee, gave that to me. He's a local harmonica player. Very good too. Rachel says, David, what do you think about how similar the championship four were from this year and last year? That's what I was just talking about, Rachel. I was talking about how if Logano could have easily made it instead of Hamlin, and it would have been set up just like last year, the final four, and then Logano could have easily went on and won. But he didn't win the race. You know, if he'd have won this race, it'd have been like, you know what, he would have definitely been the champion. But since he didn't win this race. I mean, Toyota was super strong for whatever reason. They were strong from the beginning, the top three at Daytona, and then the top three finishers here at Homestead. So, what do you think about the competition? Would you do something different if it were this Rachel saying, yeah, I don't know, the competition wise. I mean, I think the Toyotas were just too strong at the end. I mean, I don't know what the difference was in this year, last year, but I'm telling you what, it seemed like they came on really strong. Yeah, maybe that's what it is, Augustine. Yep. All right. So Scott's asking me what happened to Risto's. Risto's is a restaurant here in Statesville that just found out they closed the doors, and I believe there's a lot more to the story than we've actually heard about. And it, kind of has to do with money and that kind of stuff. So I probably should just leave it at that. But they're going to be closed, and I think there's other owners coming in though. I can't see that place staying shut down for very long. But I'll tell you what, Risto's has been great to us. They bring us food every week, at least twice a week, and it's been really good. But we'll find somebody else to sponsor us right here in the Randy Marion studio. They'll bring us food on Thursdays and Fridays, and we have live bands. Check us out on WAMEradio.com. And if you want to follow me, I'm not done yet. I got plenty of stuff left to talk about. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's DHammiam. And also, as I mentioned earlier on the podcast, I now have it's DHammiam on YouTube, and my podcast is Hamm the Engine Man. So if you're driving down the road, Beer Man, when you're coming back from Florida, you're driving down the road, you want to listen to me on a podcast because you don't hear my voice enough, you look up Hamm the Engine Man, and you can get it on iTunes or Spotify or any of that kind of stuff. Okay, Rachel says, I think about what David Reagan said. There are too many changes for the small teams to keep up. The rules need to be stabilized. I'm going to go over a few of those things, some of the new rules that they're going to be coming out with and how it's supposed to help the smaller teams. We'll see. What's up, Suzette? Friday's Ladies Band pre-show was awesome. Thank you. Yeah, check out my video that Suzette's talking about. And I'll try to put the link up here sometime. I'll put it right up here. But there's a video I put on right here in the studio where I had 9 ladies in here all singing and playing guitars and stuff. And they sounded so good. But we're going to have a Friday show, the Ladies of Music. And I guess I'm the producer of the show. So we'll see. I think it's going to be great. We got some songs picked out. All right. So let's see, Beer Man. I'm gonna give this the cold beer, warm beer right now. Okay, and my first selection for a cold beer is Beer Man and Paul. It's a 2-way tie. Beer Man, for your pictures and stuff you sent me and the good time that you had down there, I applaud you for that, and I also appreciate the invitation. I couldn't make it due to my wife being sick, so and I want to give a cold beer to Paul Rodriguez for his birthday, and also for the invitation to come down there, and said I can come stay with him in the camper right down there at Homestead. But it just didn't work out. Also because of my wife being sick. So I'm gonna tell you right now, I definitely wanted to come down, and it would have been a perfect time for me to come down because I'm sort of semi-retired now, so I don't have to answer to the man anymore. Also, Kyle Busch gets a cold beer after his 21 race winless streak. Busch came back and won his second championship. And he is he's 34 years old. He's already in the top 10 for all-time wins. Okay, so that's pretty impressive. And I know his 200 wins, 200 plus, doesn't equal Richard Petty's because it's been in different series. But it's still impressive for his age, for his youth. even though it is across the different series. And who knows how many times he was bending the rules to win some of those. But I do believe that Kyle Busch has a lot of talent. You can't take that from him, like him or not. Let's see. Joe Gibbs Racing, the organization, started the year with a 1-2-3 finish at Daytona, and then they finished with a 1-2-3 finish with Kyle Busch leading the way at Miami. He has 19 wins, breaking the record for the most wins in the modern era since 1972. Let's see. Matt Crafton won his third truck championship, so that's really cool. The latest without even scoring a win all season. So I know that he was able to run some of the Ford engines throughout the year because I actually had built one of those for him in the truck series because I got put on another special project and I was working on his engine whenever his truck driver showed up, and it was looking for his engine. And I was like, I didn't get it finished yet, and he come all the way down from Michigan, and I said, I'm not quite finished with that engine yet. So I was building one. I don't remember if it's for Logano or it was one of the Penske's. Rachel, thank you. She says we miss Ford Hamm engines. Sometimes I miss it, but I'm having a good time, enjoying my life, enjoying some of my new career choices, and enjoying getting to talk to y'all and not being quite as stressed because I'm having to get up early and go to work, down in Mooresville anymore. So it's been good so far. Cold beer to David Hamm. Scott Trevison says warm beers to Truett's crew members. Yes, I need to get on with my warm beer. That's a good point. All right, so Tyler Reddick and Cole Custer finished first and second in the Xfinity Series point standing, so they get a cold beer. An honorable mention for cold beer goes to Landon Castle and Morgan Shepherd Racing, who picked up a sponsor for the Xfinity Homestead race, which allowed them to run the entire race. So that's pretty cool when you see it. Teams that have been around forever, like Morgan Shepherd. Landon brought home a top 15, and the team's previous 2019 finish was 31st at Fontana with an average finish of 34.7. All right, so down to the warm beers. As Scott mentioned, we're going to go with Martin Truex to put on a right front tire on the left side and a left front tire on the right side is inexcusable. As Steve Letarte said during the race, this error possibly cost him the 2019 title, because they had to race hard to try to get that lap back. They ended up getting it back pretty quick because the caution came out. Go figure. Right when they needed it. So, yeah, it was a Toyota championship to win for sure. Chevrolet gets a warm beer for the third year they failed to make the Final Four. All right, Hendrick Motorsports, engines. 3 out of the 4 last races they had engine issues. All righty. So, yeah, can't say nothing about, the engine deal. You never want to wish bad luck on an engine because then that's when it's going to end up biting you. But I guess since I'm not building them anymore, I guess I can just say, you know what? I'm still not going to say it. All right. So Paul says it was nice to see Matt win in the trucks because I didn't expect him to win. Yeah, that was very cool. All right. So I'm gonna go into some of the Hamm's hanky right quick. All right. So here's what I got. I got a little show and tell. And this is a piston. This is the piston that we would have run back in 1995, 96, I believe around 95, 96, whenever we switched we went from 14-to-1 compression down to 12-to-1. But this is the way the piston used to look right here. See that dome right there on the top? I know it's a little dirty. It's been sitting in my shop. But that right there is exactly, see the grooves cut in for the valves. What we would do is the engine builder would come in and put this in the engine and stamp there. And then I would go in with a center and I would take a cutter and cut out these pockets to the right depth. And then they would check compression and I would cut that dome off. That was in 95 and 96 when I was working in a machine shop doing all the machining and stuff on these engines. And then this is an old JE piston. But then NASCAR come out with the rules reducing the compression down to 12-1. So we started whacking this off. Like it actually, now the pistons are pretty much flat on the top. No more compression. And that's just a way of limiting the amount of horsepower as NASCAR has been doing here lately, which leads me to my Hamm hanky part. I mean, it's sort of like I wish that we could go back to the NASCAR days when we did a lot of the R&D. We did a lot of the, it adds cost to the teams whenever they have to pay engineers and research and development and things like that. But it seems like they could come out with ways to still allow the teams to be creative and to do things to make more horsepower. And, that's when you get the advantage that's competition. You get the advantage because you create more power than another team. And so you beat them on the track. You beat them with your ingenuity and your creativeness. And then a lot of that's been taken out of the NASCAR teams. And, it just doesn't seem like racing anymore. And like it did back in the day when you always heard of the, So anyway, that's all right. That's my little bit of my story on that. Yeah, the old Smokey Unic days when whenever Smokey Unic had some creative ways of doing things to the cars, of course, and like making the cars smaller to scale and adding a fuel line that was so long that you could take the fuel tank out and you could still drive the car home, which is a story that they always tell. But yeah, so April says whoever built the best car won. Yeah, pretty much. And then Paul Rodriguez says the dang pace car at Homestead had 200 more horsepower than the race cars. Yeah, 750 versus 550. That's just wrong. Yeah, I've seen some other people make those comments too about the 550. Not liking that. One of the engine tuners made that comment on Twitter also. All right, so one of the questions is Miller Lite done? Is Miller Lite done as a sponsor at Penske? Does anybody have the answer to that? Rachel, is Miller Lite done as a sponsor? So fans ordering Brad Keselowski diecast are noticing something is missing, that being a primary sponsor, Miller Lite, on at least two of these paint schemes. Even on J-Ski, where 2020 paint schemes, it shows Miller Lite has but has a question mark in parentheses beside it. Back in the day, and I don't know if this has anything to do with this, I was always with the Coors team, the Coors Light, and a lot of times they didn't put a beer on a toy. So, they would just have Sabco on there or like when we went to Japan, we actually had a Tonka was our sponsor instead of Coors. I'm sure that's because they were kind of catering to a Japanese company, but I'm just saying, I've seen more of those cars. It just seems like they didn't produce as many of our cars as far as in a MaxBox car either. Anyway, that's something to think about. Miller Lite has started with Bobby Allison, 1983, and the Miller Lite was with Rusty Wallace and Penske starting in 1991. So yeah, Miller's been around in the sport forever. So I don't know. Maybe that's it, Paul. They just he saw that Penske wanted more sponsors than just Miller, and I think that's the way that a lot of teams need to go now. They need to find a bunch more smaller sponsors to be able to afford to go racing these days versus there's a lot of the big, they ask too much a lot of times from, if you go to Miller Lite and say, listen, I need $20 million to keep this going. And Miller Lite's like, no, we can't do that. Then what's the team to do? But if they go to Miller Lite and say, listen, you give us 10, you can run 10 of our races or whatever. And then we'll have these other, then that's more affordable for teams. Then they can still put out their diecast. They can still send out their, media pictures on a race car. It doesn't matter if it's 10 races only or, 30 races, in my opinion. I mean, they still have the marketing. They still have the pictures. Yeah. So think about that. Yeah, that could be very well be it, Rachel. That's what she says. That's what I was thinking, David. Due to kids playing with the cars, but collector's diecast should be different with Miller on it for grown-ups. Absolutely, because most adults, when they get those bigger cars, they don't let their kids pull them out of the box and play with them, right? So some of the regulations coming up for 2020 go along with the numbers of hours in the wind tunnel and the number of crews of members allowed at the track. So they're still kind of cutting back on the amount of crew members at the track. It seems each team car will be allowed a maximum of 12 certified chassis designated as active at any given time, where previously there wasn't a limit. Each vehicle will be allowed to retain 4 chassis designated as inactive, set aside for future use. Sort of like did with the engines, where you have to run a certain number of long blocks, short blocks throughout the season without having a chassis for every track. You know, you can't have an engine for every track. Yes, Terry agrees, or thinking about the cars. That was Terry that said that. So, yeah, Rachel says we have to stop with the PC police if that is what it is. If it's getting ridiculous. But it's kind of the way things are nowadays. Linda says they do have Twisted Tea on the diecast. And April says get a little bit from everyone. Teamwork makes the dream work. Yeah, that's absolutely right. I like that saying, says Rachel. All right. Another rule, the extended parts freeze for the NASCAR Cup Series will remain in place through 2020 as development continues to shift on to the next gen stock car. You know, when this gen car, when they started doing all these cars and people started complaining, that the cars weren't stock anymore. So we'll see. I haven't seen this new car, but I'm kind of curious if they're going to try to get it back to closer to stock car. I mean, I know they've already went back to the body and try to make it look more like a stock car, but as Paul was saying, whenever they start limiting the engine horsepower now, and you got the stock cars out there having more power than the race car, the fans hear that and they don't particularly care for that a whole lot. Let's see. Derek Nealon will join Richard Childress Racing as spotter for Tyler Reddick. Joey Meyer, who was involved in NASCAR for 23 years as a spotter, announced that he is stepping away from the spotter stand to become Dale Jr.'s personal pilot. I did see that. I saw that earlier. So that was pretty interesting. All right. Andy Houston is also stepping away as spotter for Austin Dillon. Yeah. All right. Mike Kelly will not return as crew chief on that number 38 Front Row Motorsports car in 2020. His replacement is unknown, as is his future plans. So if y'all got a few minutes, I'll show you, if you haven't seen the pictures that Scott had up, I'll show you some of these pictures and some of the ones of some of our drivers that are retiring, one being David Reagan and the other one is Paul Menard. They're going to step away from NASCAR Cup Series racing. I believe they're still going to be involved in racing because it's in their blood, just as it is mine. And I've seen David Reagan at these local short tracks, dirt tracks before. We've actually hung out at some Carolina Speedway down in Gastonia. Rachel says, I think we should have a throwback. We could even throw in revenue collectors for a fun race. There you go. All right, Terry says, I'll do some research, David, on the gen car and see what I can find for next week. That sounds good. Yeah, definitely. Here he is, if I can get to him here. And I know if you're listening in on iPod, you can't really see these pictures, so maybe I'll just cut all this out. There's a picture of David Reagan. I guess that was in 1999 when he was racing. It looks like probably Charlotte and the Bandolero, most likely. So his dad owned a building down in Charlotte, Ken Reagan Racing. And so his dad was a driver in the Truck Series, I believe. I just remember always seeing that KRR in the building. That's Paul Menard. You know, look at Paul Menard. So his family owns the basically the empire of the Menards. All right, so here's a picture of Scott, bigger man, with Kyle. And I'm going to see Kyle, like I said, I will see him in November 23rd right down here at Tilly Harley-Davidson. So that is going to be pretty cool. I'm sure I'll be showing y'all pictures and videos from that. Here's another one, Scott and Jana and Samantha Bush. There's Scott and Jana with the trophy. Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series trophy. Pretty cool. The one that Kyle Busch had his kid sitting in. Here's the WME Tribbles. Are they mates? All right. Good stuff. What else? Oh, Xfinity news. Jeb Burton and Daniel Hemmert are to drive for JR Motorsports in 2020. Daniel Suarez may go to Richard Childress Racing and fill the vacant seat of Tyler Reddick in 2020 in Xfinity. So, that could be interesting. And that could be a deal where Daniel Suarez just needs to step back and go and see what he can do in the Xfinity series. Sometimes you have to do that. There's been drivers in the past that did really, really well in the Xfinity series, and they move up to the Cup Series not as well, And I know talking to Ricky Stenhouse, asking him about what the biggest difference was for him going from the Xfinity series into the Cup Series was that he could flat foot his car all the way around the Speedway in the Xfinity series, and it was an adjustment trying to adjust to using the throttle more in the Cup Series. So that's just his difference in driving style. A lot of times they can like some drivers like to ride up there against the wall, and some don't. So the Itchy Guru, what's up? Thanks for tuning in. All right, so in some more Cup news, 2020 NASCAR Cup Series rookie class could be the best in history. I'd say that's for sure. As Cole Custer is moving to the number 41 Stewart-Haas Racing car, replacing Daniel Suarez, which has been a rumor for quite a while now. Tyler Reddick in the number 8 for Richard Childress Racing, and Christopher Bell to the 17 at Ralph Fenway Racing. So we'll see how all that pans out next year. Regarding Daniel Suarez and his ride with Stewart-Haas, he said he was totally surprised, 95% certain he'd be back. And I actually heard that he'd been re-signed and this kind of stuff. And I remember Tom Robinson saying, I'm not sure about that. And then I was like, you know what? I saw that in what I was reading, but I'd also been hearing about Cole Custer going into 41 a long time ago. And me and Tom see some of this stuff too on our Twitter stuff. Tony Stewart wanted Suarez back. Co-owner Gene Haas did not. So that's kind of the way that went, supposedly. Daniel was 3 years in Cup, 0 wins, 8 top fives, 32 top 10s, 2 poles. So you look at the numbers. He's in the elite cars, 3 years in there and no wins. I mean, all right. So he ran Xfinity 5 years with 3 wins, 33 top fives. I mean, not really impressive numbers. So maybe he can step back and get a little bit more. I don't know. We'll see. You see it all the time. And a lot of times the drivers, a lot of times it's just, to be up front, it's how much money do they have, or how much money does their dad have? Did I just say that? All right. In the Mexican series, Suarez, he won 10 races in 6 years with an average finish of 12th place. So let me get back on here right quick. All right. Matt Tift and Front Row Motorsports have mutually parted ways, so Matt can concentrate on his concerns for his health regarding the seizure that doctors still aren't sure about. So we wish him, hopefully he'll get well and he'll get that figured out, because not knowing why you're having a seizure is not a good deal. John Hunter Nemechek may be filling the vacant seat of Tift, where the now retired David Reagan. So we'll see how that pans out too. Front Row Motorsports may cut back to a 2-car team in 2020 and sell its 3rd charter to Rick Ware Racing, who plans to become a 3-car team, with one of the drivers being J.J. Yaley. So it seems like that Rick Ware Racing seems to be doing pretty decent at a lot of the tracks. So, all right. During race pre-inspection, Martin Truex failed first-round inspection and had to go through a second time. The 3 other contenders made it through first round. And it looked like they were working on some Bondo right there on the right rear quarter. Actually, it wasn't on a quarter panel. It was on the right rear deck lid of the deck lid, and that could do different things. It was right kind of near the window, it seemed. That could actually – it really just depends. I'm not an aerodynamicist or whatever you call them, but it could add a little bit more downforce on the right rear, or it could put more air strategically placed over the spoiler over on the right side, one side or the other, or move it away to the left side, and give it more lift. It's whatever. All right. In the Truck Series news, Kyle Busch Motorsports announced Canadian Raphael Lidsard will pilot the team's number 4 Toyota Tundra next season full time. He replaces Todd Gilliland, who is expected to move to his father's co-owned organization, DGR Crossley. He will be with teammates Christian Eckes, whatever it is. So if y'all see me looking out here, and sometimes I get kind of quiet, it's because I see people walking around outside. This is downtown Statesville. We got a pretty nice city, nice and quiet and clean and all that kind of stuff. But we do have some kind of strange people walking around outside here. Not quite like down in Charlotte, but it's yes. So Terry says Edsel Ford said he wants to keep Suarez in a Ford. Rachel says, I think you just said what is bothering everyone. Driving for the Cup Series should be based on talent, not money. Absolutely. People want to see the Dale Sr. rise from the gas station to champion Cup driver. Very well said, Rachel. I totally agree with that. I think that is one of the things that have killed the sport. People, that's kind of like going back to the roots. The roots of NASCAR racing were when drivers from your local dirt tracks, they would build their own fan base. I mean, I've got some I could name from my childhood: Tom McCarter, Doug Sanders, Flintstone Flyer, Mike Duvall. All these guys. Let's say that they were so good on the dirt tracks and the short tracks, and they had such a following, the fans, the T-shirts, all that kind of stuff. And then they come up and they start racing. Let's say they come up, Dale Jr. Go back to Dale Sr., and Ralph Earnhardt, racing down at Metrolina and places, which that's another story. Rachel sent me a link the other day. They're talking about I guess they're talking about turning Metrolina into an industrial zone or whatever. So they're going to build it up. I forgot what it was. Rachel, you can help me out here. All right, so back to the story. They're going to take Metrolina and they're going to develop it. So the track's not going to be there anymore. And that's where a lot of the drivers, Tony Urie's dad, Tony Urie Sr.'s dad, used to race against Ralph Earnhardt down there, stuff like that. And these drivers that come up from using their talents to get into a Cup seat. And see, the owner, the sponsorship, the money, all that stuff should be done with the marketing, the team owner. They should have all that stuff handled, and they should go out and find a talented driver and put him in the car for his talent, not because the dad comes along and says, here, if you put my son in this car, I'm going to give you $20 million. It don't matter if you already have a driver in there. I'll give him $10 million to disappear. I just don't think that that's cool. So then you end up with what you have. You have these teams that are really good with mediocre drivers, and the fans get tired of it. You don't have the Tim Richmond drive up in there and the flamboyance and start winning races, or like him or not, Jeff Gordon. I mean, look at him. He comes in there. Hendrick sees him, the potential. Of course, he saw it from him racing over at Bill Davis Racing, and he puts him in the car, and look how that goes. And that attracted a lot of fans. Okay. That should have been my Hamm's hanky right there. Okay, so Matt Tiff in front row. Okay. Okay, so we're going to move on. That page is done. Get down to a couple more pages here. Championship and retired driver. Let's see. Tyler Reddick won his final Xfinity race and also won the 2019 championship. I believe that was 2 back-to-back. Am I right? That's back-to-back championship. Chase Briscoe has clinched Xfinity Rookie of the Year honors, and very well deserved. Chase is a great kid, good attitude, just humble. All right, humble kid. All right, so I've had him on this show. I sat right here and talk to him over on the radio on our sports recap show. All right, with Matt Crafton winning the championship, he becomes the first driver in Truck Series history to win a championship without winning a race. We mentioned that earlier. Austin Hill won the race. Tyler Ankrum, Rookie of the Year. I haven't heard of him. Okay, thanks, Terry. She says correct on Tyler back-to-back championships. Let's see. Kyle Busch wins Race Monster Energy Championship, as we mentioned. Daniel Hemrick in the 2019 Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series Rookie of the Year. Homestead marked the end of the career of two drivers, Dave Reagan and Paul Menard. So a little bit of bio about Dave Reagan. He began driving when he was 11 years old in the Bandolera Series, as I mentioned, that picture in 1999, under the guidance of his dad, Ken Reagan. He had years of experience instilled into him even before he hit the tracks. He won 12 races in the national championship and the national championship in the Bandolera, I believe, and only his second year of competition. And in 99, he purchased a Goodies Dash car. 2001, he had won the championship. So David had a lot of potential, and he actually won. I believe it was 2 Cup races he won, and I know one was Talladega. Maybe both were Talladega. I can't remember. Oh, who do we have on the show? Who did I say? That was Chase Briscoe. Yeah, I had Chase Briscoe. I had him on the phone because he and Austin Cindric come in to the shop. And one of these days, I'll tell you the whole story behind those two because it's really cool what Doug Yates did for them. Anyway, they came to the shop, and so I got his phone number, and then I called him, and I keep in touch with him every once in a while, send him a text or whatever. But yeah, he's a good one. All right. All right, so does anybody have any Q&A? I'm going to go ahead and do that right quick so we can, if you got any questions, go ahead and throw them my way. I know you've kind of been asking as we go, and that's fine too. Okay, Daytona and Talladega, Terry says, I think, yeah. It does seem like it was plate tracks that he won. You know, David's pretty cool. He's a cool guy. After, I can't remember, there was a wreck. I remember for Charlotte. Where was that wreck? Okay, where he was underneath the 10 car, and there were sparks flying. There was sparks flying, and they were just shooting right inside his car. So I asked him if he got enough sparks, and he kind of explained to me what all happened while he's sitting in there getting blasted by sparks. But you know, he was a driver with a lot of common sense. If really NASCAR should have kind of sat him down and said, "Hey, what do you think we should do about this and that?" And maybe he'll be somewhat of a future leader if he still goes around. But he was a very smart guy. Who do you think is the driver that will be the future leader in NASCAR? Kind of like Dale Sr. was. And I'll tell you who my choice, not necessarily my choice, but, you know, it's a fitting choice because he's the guy that replaced Dale Earnhardt in the car after Dale Earnhardt passed away. So I guess you can say it's fitting in that way. And I've also, Rodney Childers actually told me, and he's his crew chief, if you know who I'm talking about by now, that he thought that he would be a very good leader in the sport of NASCAR. Yes. Rachel says, that's why I wish the Hall of Fame would take over Metroline and give the people the real feel of racing. They could have it, a shuttle, bring people back and forth. Yes. And they could sell some beer right up there. Cold beer to Scott Trevison for those awesome pictures and videos. Top notch. And then Paul Rodriguez says that, and Harvick. Yes. Who would I pick as my top leaders for NASCAR? I would say, you know, I'm not a huge. All right, I like the. Of course, I like all the Fords and whatever. All right, so Kevin Harvick would probably be the guy that I would think would have enough, I guess, common sense and all to be a leader for the NASCAR. You know, I don't agree with the way he is with the fans always. You know, but you know, it is what it is. You don't always like the people that are leading anyway. but I think that he would probably be a good one. And he drives a Ford, so why not give us a Ford guy? For sure. I didn't say anything about Menard. I mean, Menard used to drive for. He drove for us. I actually built engines for him for many years, but let's see, he was driver in the 98 and 2009 Cup Series for us. And yeah, Linda Harvick. But yeah, I'm talking about Paul Menard now. But yeah, he was a driver for us. 2009 merged with Yates merged with Richard Petty Motorsports, where Paul scored 1 top 5 and 6 top 10 finishes. Yeah, I won't go too much into his career, but he's gonna retire too. I mean, but you know, he was one of those that kind of come in with the whole. You know, I hate to say it, but you know what? I don't work in NASCAR anymore. I just do this, so I can kind of be straight up. Paul Menard come in with a lot of money. I mean, look at what his dad did. So that's where a lot of his. All right, so yeah, if y'all have any questions, otherwise, I think that I'm gonna wrap it up. But be sure to hit that subscribe and hit that like if you liked it, and look for me on Twitter at DHammiam. If you got any suggestions or any comments, put them down below and put them down after the video stops. That way I can go on and see them on my notifications. Other people can go on and comment also, because I'm looking forward to the off season. I think what's going to be really cool, and I think y'all could be excited about this too, is whenever we move, we're actually going to move from this studio over to what's called the Clock Tower building. It's going to be a bigger building. We're going to have more room to do stuff. And I think we're actually going to try to get my own backdrop, you know, Hamm the Engine Man or something like that on there. So, yeah. And if you'd like a Hamm the Engine Man t-shirt, I'll put it right up here in the link. It should be over here. I think it's going to be right here. Anyway, I'll put the link up there. I also have my David Hamm Precision and Performance t-shirts, which is my business, one of my businesses that I do. But thanks so much for tuning in, and we will see y'all all next time. And cheers to everybody, all my friends out there, and let's keep this going. And we will talk at y'all. Have a great rest of the week, and tune in. Let's see, when am I going to be back on the radio? I might come in the morning, but I'm not really sure. I kind of doubt it. But I'll be back on Thursday evening and Friday evening this week for the Drive at 5. We're going to have a band in here Thursday, and we're going to have the ladies in here Friday. It's going to be a good show. Check it out on WAMEradio.com for the links. And I've been working on the website a little bit. Got to get into doing that stuff. So, but anyway, thanks everybody for tuning in. Sharon Barnes, I just saw you on here. Thank you. And so all my friends, good night. Have a good night, and we'll see you next time.